15 years, 7% interest rate, and let's say that you can get a new loan or a refinanced loan. And let's complicate things up a little bit. Let's say that this is after 5 years. So this is going to be based upon the balance of original loan for the 10 remaining years. And the new prevailing interest rate is 5%. Okay? So, what I want you to do is to find out what is the total savings if we were to refinance this loan, and to find out the present value of that savings of the loan refinancing. Okay? I want you to find out the total dollar savings on refinancing the loan, and then also the present value of that savings over that 10 remaining years. And the other thing I'm going to throw in there is your cost of refinancing is going to be 4% of loan amount. And then use the 5% as your discount rate. All right? So what I want you to do, I want you to see if you can struggle with it for a couple of minutes on your own, and then we'll work through it together. You can partner with your neighbor on this if you need to, or want to. Okay, so the first piece is to go ahead and calculate what the current loan is. You've got $1 million loan, 15 years, 7% interest rate. You get the monthly payment of $89.8828. Then we need to find what the balance is at the end of 5 years. Since it's a 5-year hold, you're going to be refinancing after 5 years. So one input, 60, shift, amortize, equal. That gives us our balance of the $774,128.02. Hopefully everybody got that far. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what we've got to do is take that balance, but we've also got to determine how we're going to deal with this cost of refinancing. Okay? What you could do is add it to the loan balance, okay, and effectively finance the whole thing together, all right, as opposed to inherently trying to pay that money directly out of pocket at the time the loan is originated. You could theoretically roll it into that new loan balance, all right. So, or what you could do, and this is the either or. You could keep it separate, pay that money up front, but ultimately, whenever you calculate the present value of your savings, then you would also have to take into account that dollar amount that you paid for the actual loan origination. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you can do it kind of one of two ways, just depending on how we, and I gave you the option of doing it either way by not saying. All right, so let's try it both ways, see what we come up with. All right, if we do it where we just take the 774, 128.02 as our new loan amount, and this loan is only going to be at 5% for 10 years. So let's start off and get our payment. And we get 8210, 83. All right. Our original payment was 89.8828. So if we subtract out the 8210, 83, the difference $777.45. Okay, everybody get that? Mm-hmm. All right. So what we could do to find the present value of that would be to take the $777.45, put that in as the payment amount for a 5% discount rate for 10 years, solve for present value. Okay. And you get 73,299.04. Okay. So without taking into consideration at all for the moment our new sort of refinancing fee, the present value of the savings is $73,299.04. Does everybody agree with that? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, we had said that we've got the cost of refinancing is 4% of the loan amount. All right. So if we go back, that is our loan amount. We said 4% of that is going to be our loan origination fee or cost of refinancing. That's going to be $30,965.12. Okay, So if this is our savings, yes, the 73,299, and our cost of refinancing is 30,965.12. Then the net sort of present value of our savings $42,333.92. Yep.
If you tack that on to the loan amount, don't you have to pay interest on it?
Yes, that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so is everybody good with this? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So if
you
we
paid it up front, you're saying?
Yeah, this is if we paid it up front, cash money out of pocket.
All right, cool.
Okay, and not rolling it into the loan amount. Okay. Now, if we were to roll it into the loan amount, okay. So we would start off with the 774, 128.02 plus the 30,965.12. So our new loan amount would be 805,093.14. Put that in as our present value for 5%, 10 years. Solve for the payment. $85,39.26. Okay, everybody get that? Okay, now what we've got to do is take what our original amount was going to be, if we'd kept on with our original loan, which is $89,88.28, subtract out the $85,39.26, get the difference there. And so the difference would have been $449.02 a month. All right. Then we need to find the present value of that. Okay. So $449.02, 5%, 10 years. Solve for present value. And we end up with $42,334.21 versus $42,333.92. So really, all things considered, no significant difference to us as a borrower, just on a present value basis. Okay, and that's what I was. Okay, so let's take a look. Hold on. So really, basically no real difference. And the thing to sort of keep in mind here is, if you're the borrower, what would you do? I would more than likely say roll it into the loan, because that way you're not having to come out of pocket with that cash up front. Unless the lender requires you to come up with that money out of pocket, which some lenders would. So it's a question of, you know, which one really makes the most sense. But if you've got the money and your opportunity costs are not that great, in the sense that, you know, you're not going to be earning more than 5% on that money, then it probably makes sense to just go ahead and pay it up front.
Yeah.
My question was, what exactly were we doing in that second part of the problem? Instead of paying that 4% up front, you're rolling it into the actual.
Correct.
So then your payments. Okay. Cool. That was my. Okay.
But the end result is what I was trying to illustrate. It's really almost, yeah. It's just,
when would it be a big difference if the percentage was?
It's really the. for the most part, it's going to be relatively the same, but the big thing is the question of, is your lender going to allow you to roll it all into the actual loan amount versus you coming out of pocket? Now, on a residential loan, you know, you're usually talking about relatively small dollar amounts, so it's, you know, you don't really sometimes, you know, think of it in those terms, but certainly with a commercial loan, this sort of thing, I mean, dealing with much larger numbers, you know, think of it, you know, from an operating business, you know, perspective of that cash flow of having to give up that $30,000 up front versus just simply getting to amortize it over the life of the loan, much better, you know.
At the top, you wrote a 5% discount. Does that not get factored in?
No, that is the rate that we use. We're using the whatever the prevailing interest rate is as our discount rate.
Okay.
To figure
The
out
new
the present value.
To find the new present value.
You're using the 5% as the new interest rate?
Yes.
Okay.
And as the discount rate for comparing the cash flows.
If you were gonna hold this for only 7 years, how would you figure this out? Because I was trying that on a problem in the book and I didn't get it. Like I didn't understand
Yeah.
If you're only going to hold, instead of holding it for the full 10 years, then you would figure out what the balance is going to be at the end of that 7 years. But then, under this scenario, you're going to obviously, you've already factored in the part of your balance would be that $30,000 that you've paid in up front, and so that would automatically be taken care of with respect to the loan payoff.
Can you do it in,
Okay, well,
maybe with the first example? No, if you just paid, if you didn't hold it for the whole term.
That's what I'm saying, where would that?
But that's what this is. He's saying he's selling it off after
well, no, this is just saying that it's paid off at
5.
No.
This is a refinance.
Oh, this is a
refinance.
refinance.
I
If you
got
paid it off completely after like
Yeah.
7, where does that 30,000?
Not paid it off, but it just,
How do you pay off the rest of that 30,000? Is that just a balance?
Well, no, well, in this, the 30,000, if that were the case, it doesn't matter because you're paying this $30,000 regardless up front.
Okay. Well, what if you roll it?
I mean, in other words, here's what's okay.
no, I guess,
Give me a second. All right. What would happen in the first scenario, this one here that we talked about? You're paying this $30,000 up front in cold hard cash. So to a certain extent, if then you were to not carry the loan out for that 10 years and you were to pay it off early, like after another 2 years or 7 years, think back to what we did in terms of looking at what is your effective cost of borrowing. What would happen is that 30,000 would technically only get allocated over in other words, you would only get the benefit from it over that shortened period. Therefore, your effective cost of borrowing would go up dramatically. In other words, that fee that you're paying up front, that refinancing fee that you're paying up front is guaranteeing that you've now got 10 years to go ahead and pay off this loan. If you chose, however, to pay it off early, after, once again, another couple of years or whatever, what that's going to do to you is it's going to drive up dramatically your effective cost of borrowing so that you're really not paying 5% plus that refinancing fee.
right.
You're paying the refinancing fee, but you're really, your effective cost is this is gonna drive it up dramatically.
No, I guess the question would be is, should you refinance?
Right.
If you
If
think
your
you're
term-
only gonna hold it for another 5
Okay,
years.
you're getting to what, okay. Yes, here's the issue. The shorter the term that you hold it, as a general rule, you're not gonna wanna refinance. And that's really what this is, you know, to a certain
Right,
extent,
I
gonna
understand.
demonstrate is that if you probably only held it for a couple of years, bad idea to refinance it. But if you do indeed hold it for that entire 10-year term, it makes a lot of sense because the present value would indicate that, yeah, it makes sense to do that, but otherwise not.
But on the calculated is my question, like how do you figure that out if you were only gonna hold it for another 5 years?
Okay.
Does it cost to refinance? And how would you calculate it?
Okay, so what we would do is we'd go back to this scenario and we would find out what is going to be our balance here after 5 years. All right, so after we've put in this information, okay, let's get our balance. Okay, so our balance would be 435, 097, 61. Okay, and so what we would have to do is you're still going to discount.
You have to figure out the balance after 10 years on the original, no?
No, well, yes. You need to go back to the original one. And it was at what, 8%?
Yes,
Or 7? Okay, 7% for 15 years. Okay. Okay, get back to the 89, 88, 28. We need to find the balance of that after 10 years. And we get 453, 926, 19 versus 435, 097, 61. So the cash flows, that what we're going to have to do is the cash flows under the old loan, cash flows under the new loan, and the cash flow on the old loan, the payment was 89.88. Right, 89, 88, 28. Yep. Okay. On the new one, it is 82, 10, 83.
So you start off with the 89, 88, right?
You would, but on the new one for, so this is going to be for 120 months.
Wow.
This is going to be for 60 months. But the first 60 months
Right.
is going to be the 89, 88, 28. And then the payoff for this one is 435,097.61 versus 453,926.19. Okay. And then this one, you're also going to have the 30,000.
965.
Okay, 30,965.12. Upfront or amortized, depending on which direction we go. So what we would do is we would calculate what is the present value of that set of cash flows, okay, at the 5%, okay, back to, well, actually we need to calculate this at the 7%, and then this at the 5%, and then this at 5%, and then this would be subtracted out up front. So what we would do is put in 89, 88, 28 as our payment for 60 months at the 7% interest rate. Solve for the present value of that, and then we would put in the 8210, 83 as the payment for 60 months at the 5%, solve for present value, but that is going to give us the present value at the end of year 5. So we've got to discount that back to time period 1. Does that make sense? Okay, and we effectively got to do the same thing with the payoff amounts. You want to continue? Okay.
No, I get it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Can I help? Okay. Okay, great. Just letting us know that apparently the water is broken on this floor, so if you need to use the restroom or whatever, go up, I guess, one of the upper floors. Okay. You want to go ahead and do this real quick?
No, I mean, I understand it.
Okay. I kind of feel now we should go through it.
No.
Okay.
I need closure.
Okay, let's go ahead and finish
It's
it
gonna
real
be on
quick.
the exam.
Well, now it is.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
You do this exact question.
7% present value,
Just remember the answer.
Memorize it.
53, 926, 06. Okay. And then so what we've got to do for this one, the 8210, is we've got to take that 435, 497.68 as our, future value. 60 months at 5%, then get the present value of that. So we get 339,030.46. All right, and so if we go ahead and add those two together, versus this one, which would be taking the present value of that. Then we're also gonna, all right, let's go and take a break. This is gonna take a while.
I love it.
This is gonna take a while.
I love it.
I think doing the exams too much.
Good job, Dustin.
Fair
It's a very
question.
involved sort of,
Can't you just take the two ending balances though, and just find the difference between, instead of solving for,
you could, I mean, that's another way to do it. I mean, you, ultimately, once again, all you're really doing is you're still just comparing, well, what is the difference between the two? But the complicating part of what you introduced into this is the fact that you pay it off early, and all you're really gonna be finding by doing that is, what I was just saying, that your overall cost is, and your effective cost of borrowing is gonna go up.
Your interest rate goes up.
that was one of the questions on
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
chapter 6, and I was struggling with it.
It'd be a lot easier if we did that one in Excel. So we'd probably do that. Okay, well, let's take a break.
Yeah, I got
Have
it.
any time to go
Get a
through
finance guy in
questions
there.
for the
Yeah, I got it.
exam?
The architect, you sit.
Are you gonna give us any time later to go through the questions potentially for the exam? Like go over, like a financial feasibility question maybe?
Sure.
Yeah. So when you just look at the answer, there's different. Break it up. So you have like, you gotta sign the cost for each person in the tax.
So you just plug in the cost in?
Yeah, the contract cost.
And then it splits it up.
And then, yeah, so it splits it up. But you have to do it for each one. So if you have like a $5 million contract with Southeast Concrete,
Yeah.
you gotta just figure out at what points you wanna pay them.
Also, you have to say, okay, I'm doing 3 million here, 2
Yeah.
million here. Okay.
Now, what it does do in the cost side, though, which is pretty cool, on your resource tab, is you prorate it. And what that means is so it's spread over that individual tax, like if it's 90 days, you spread the cost over 90 days. Or you can do it on the start. So, at day one of the tax, you have to pay, or you can pay at the end. So it doesn't really do like an escrow, so to speak, but it will do like individual over that period. And then,
Does it have, when you go to like reports, do you see like,
well, the reports don't really show up because you haven't really started. Like I have to start the project.
but does it show you the overall budget?
Yeah. But we'll show you that.
So is this tied to the actually having a Excel file?
Yeah. I just do that up. But the better way to see it is in your tax usage on the insured. You can see this is, so I set a budget, and this is our budget on our project. There's the breakdown of the budget for program area, and then this is the actual cost. So budget amount is what we had on our spreadsheet for the project, and then this is just me plugging in numbers. And you set the budgets up here in the resource sometimes. You had set what budget? It's really more simple. And you just click on budget. Create a budget.
How come you don't do this as a recent cycle budget?
Are we gonna go over it?
Just add- That's how you're supposed to do it. That's how you're supposed to do a budget. You just take it in, put your cost, and then the only difference is just change it to a budget. Here, but,
Where did you?
yeah, just double click it, and you put in.
You know why that happened?
So the budget items will only.
I forgot to
you can't
divide
add
it by 12
your budget items, it won't allow you
to
add
get the monthly payment.
So like here, if I wanted to put in here on my resource, if I want to put a budget in, it won't let you.
Okay,
It only allow you to
What we're going to do now is go over the midterm.
We have to take longer breaks because we have to go across the street for bathrooms.
All right, so what I've done, I've given you your midterm back. We're going to go over these question by question so that any calculations, any sort of issues that you've got, you can sort of see potentially where you went off the rails if you didn't get it correct. So we'll sort of go start with the very beginning. All right, starting with the conceptual questions. In an effort to minimize their risk, what additional information or stipulations do some commercial lenders now require from borrowers about their properties on an ongoing basis throughout the loan? List 4 items typically required or stipulated. Okay, this, okay, let me just sort of ask you, this is that whole business of what we were even talking about a little bit today as well, of what is that additional information that a lender is saying, you know, we made you the loan, but now that you're operating, we're still going to request information from you on an ongoing basis. So what were some of those things that we said that potentially they're going to request? They're going to want to know on a regular basis, what is your occupancy level? What are your rental rates? Who are your tenants? They're going to want to have your operating expenses, any sort of changes in the tenancy. Any and all of that's going to be required on an ongoing basis throughout the loan. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. Question 2. What is the difference between the loan term and the loan amortization period? The loan term is simply the actual time or duration of the loan, whereas the amortization period is where the payments are actually calculated over a specific set period of time. Okay? Everybody understand? Issues there. Okay, moving on.
I'm sorry, I just, to clarify it a bit.
The loan term, with commercial loans, you typically have the loan term of 5 years, but yet you have an amortization period maybe of 15 years. The loan is due and payable at the end of 5-year loan term, but with a balloon payment for the remaining balance, but yet the amortization period is the time over which the loan payments are calculated. That would be maybe 15 years.
But that 10 years of amortized payments will still be due at that 5.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. At the end of the loan term. Okay. All right. Question 3, explain the logic behind lenders using the debt service coverage ratio to determine the maximum loan amount maximum loan amount based upon the net operating income. And so here the idea is the lender wants to ensure that there is more than adequate income that the property is generating by virtue of their net operating income to be able to pay the debt service that the lender obviously needs to in other words, for the principal and the interest of the loan to be made. So typically they will obviously set that ratio, that debt service coverage ratio, it's something substantially greater than 1 or 100%. So in many instances, as we've sort of said, probably the lowest you will most of the time ever see it would be like 1.2. Most of the time it's going to be like 1.3, 1.4. So that translates into the lender wants between maybe a 20% to maybe a 40% cushion of sort of the amount of income exceeding the annual debt service.
Can I have a quick question on that?
Yep.
How do they determine that? Based on the borrower, based on the type of asset?
Both. That most lenders have upfront kind of a prescribed set of standards that they are offering on most every loan that sort of comes in the door. For a particular borrower, for a particular property, that could be adjusted somewhat, depending on, once again, the size of the loan and who is involved. But a lot of times lenders will almost even state that pretty much up front, especially for the smaller loans, because they want to standardize it. But for the larger loans, it may not be quite as standardized. Okay, and then the formula for that is obviously net operating income divided by annual debt service. Okay. Okay, question 4. Given that technology has played a large role in the evolution of mortgage lending practices, how do you anticipate that emerging technologies will change commercial lending practices in the next 5 years or so? Almost anything here would have been accepted, but everything from, that potentially more information is going to be available about the property and about the borrower, so the lender can probably tap into that information and maybe not only access the information quicker, but also maybe make the loan quicker, to evolving sort of standards of what kind of information is available from the property and the borrower on an ongoing basis, so that the lender can tap into that information, and also tap into tenant information about the individual tenants within a property, and being able to kind of collect that information and be able to kind of preempt any potential sort of default the borrower might have by having access to more complete information about what's actually transpiring on the property at any given point in time. Okay, anybody else want to add to that? Okay. Question 5, pretty much if you wrote anything on this one, you got credit. From the concepts we've learned in class, which one has been the most interesting to you? And a lot of folks obviously said using the Excel model, using the calculator, and a handful of other things. Okay, moving on into the ones where we actually have to do some calculations. All right. So what I will do is I will write the answers for each of these, and then for whichever ones that we need to go through item by item, we will. Okay. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just sort of start off real quick with the Excel questions. I'm going to pull up that. Okay, so what I'm going to start with, just for kind of simplicity's sake, I'm going to start with these final sort of 4 questions, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Has everybody got it written down, what the answer should be? Okay, so let's switch over to the Excel model. And the Excel model that pretty much should have used was the one off of the Dropbox site, which was the one we created in class on January the 24th. And so all you should have had to do with this particular model is just put in the few basic key pieces of information. So we start off with putting in the only changes we're going to make: $50 million loan amount. Oops. All right. The interest rate, 5%. 15-year amortization. All right, and in this case, you're being charged 4 points in loan origination fees. All right, so we can sort of stop right there for the moment. We're going to put in a prepay of, in this case, 180. All right, we don't have to do that to answer that first question. So the first question is just simply question 21, calculate the actual cash dispersed by the lender when the loan is made, assuming the loan origination fees are paid up front by the borrower. So the actual cash disbursement was simply writing down the 48 million. Okay, does everybody see that? Okay. The second question was compute the effective cost of borrowing, also known as the lender's yield, for this loan scenario, assuming the loan is not prepaid early. Okay. So in this case, let's go over here. Oops.
Put it at 180.
Why are we getting?
That's right, though. That's correct.
Yeah, I've got 5.633.
Where?
Yes. Oh, duh. Administrative fee, $200 a month. There we go.
There it is.
Okay. So putting in the $200 a month for the administrative fee, and then you should then be able to get the lender's yield of 5.633, which is the answer to question 22. Okay. Question 23, compute the effective cost of borrowing, assuming the loan is prepaid at the end of month 36. So here, you should be able just to go in and change the prepayment month to month 36. And then also, we've got a prepayment penalty of 5% we need to put in. And that gives us the lender's yield of 7.97% for question 23. Okay. Question 24, compute the effective cost of borrowing, also known as the lender's yield for this loan, assuming the loan is prepaid at the end of month 36, and the interest rate is 5% in year 1, 7% in year 2, 9% in year 3. So there, what we're going to do is just go over here and adjust the interest rate, and so at the month 13, it is going to jump from 5% to 7%, okay? And then you're going to go down to the beginning of year 3, which is month 25, and change that to 9%. And then give it up here, lender's yield, 9.799, okay? Everybody good? All right, so those are the solutions for the spreadsheet. Any questions on those? Okay, Now, the question 25, in your own words, explain the logic behind the if-then statements used to calculate the total cash flow paid to the lender each month. And so here, if we scroll down to the actual lender cash flows, we look at the if-then statements, here is where the purpose of the if-then statements was to determine whether or not this was the month of the loan payoff, and if it's the loan of the month payoff, which in this case it would be in month 36, then it would add in the balance of the loan plus any sort of prepayment penalties and calculate that as a cash flow. Otherwise, it would simply give us what would be the cash flow for that month for the loan. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. Now, let's go back to, quickly, the other calculations. Okay. All right. And let's just kind of work through these fairly quickly, starting with question 6. All right. We just got a traditional mortgage, and we're asked to calculate what the mortgage payment is. So let's kind of work through these fairly quickly, and if you've got questions as we kind of work through them, then sort of bring them up as we kind of go along. All right. Now, all of these are going to be assuming 12 months per year or monthly payments, unless you're told differently. All right. So, $1.5 million loan, present value at 5% for 15 years. Solve for the monthly payment, and you should get the $11,861.90. Okay. Questions on that one? All right. Number 7, calculate the total interest paid during the second year of the loan in that particular problem. Okay, so here you're going to use the amortization function on the calculator. So you're going to look at payment periods 13 through 24 and get the amortization information for that. And whenever you do, and this is looking for interest, so $69,909.64. All right. Question 8. The total principal paid during month 31. Here, you're just going to be looking for the information during month 31, so it's going to be 31, input 31, shift, amortize, equal, and you should get 63.57.47. And the mistake that several of you, or actually a couple of you, I think made, was instead of doing the 31 input 31 to only access the information for that one singular month, you instead did one input 31, therefore getting all of the interest or all of the principal over the course of the loan up to that point. Okay. And question 9 is calculate the balance of the loan at the end of 5 years. So here would have been 1 input 60, shift, amortize, equal, 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 and our loan balance would have been $1,118,356.36. Okay, questions on that? All right. Good. Okay, moving forward. Number 10, compute the monthly interest on an interest-only mortgage in the amount of a $5 million loan and an annual interest rate of 6%. Term length does not matter. So here, what you're going to start off with is take the $5 million, multiply it by 6%. You get 300,000, but you need to divide that by 12 to get the monthly amount of $25,000. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. Moving on. Question 11. Okay. Calculate the total interest and principal in the third month of a constant amortization mortgage in the amount of $60 million with an interest rate of 4% and a term of 5 years. Okay. So here, what you can do is start off and you know that you've got the loan of $60 million, and since this is a constant amortization mortgage, what you're going to be doing is you know that the amount that's paid off each and every month is simply going to be a fixed amount over that term. So you start off, divide that by the loan term of 60 months. So that means in principal, you're going to be paying off $1 million a month as far as the loan balance is concerned. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay, so once you've done that, then you're saying, okay, how much is the total interest and principal payment within the third month? Okay, so in that particular case, your balance at the beginning of the third month is going to be $58 million because you've paid off month 1 and month 2, so you still owe at the beginning of the third month $58 million. Then from that, you're going to multiply it by 4%. Which is $2 million. And you're going to divide that by 12 to get a monthly number. Okay, is that right? 58 million. No, that's not right. 2320, okay, divided by 12, and it gives you 193, 333, 33, and so you're going to add that. That's going to be your interest payment. You're going to add that to the $1 million principal, and so your total payment for that month, principal and interest, is the 1,193,333.33. Okay? Questions on that one? All right. Question 12. All right. The effective cost of borrowing or the lender's yield on a loan that charges 3% for loan origination fees. It is a $7.5 million loan. 5% interest rate, 10-year amortization. So the first thing we need to do is calculate the monthly payment. And we should get 549.14, and in this case we are getting charged 3 points up front, so we've got to figure out how much it's going to be. So $7.5 million, so $225,000 is what we're going to be paying in loan origination fees. All right, so we need to subtract that from the 7.5 million. Okay, then whatever that dollar amount is, we're going to put that in as our new present value, and then we're going to solve for interest rate to get our effective cost of borrowing. Okay? right, so we should get the 5.665. Okay. Good with that? All right. Question 13. Okay. This one, $1 million loan. I'm sorry, $10 million loan. 6% interest rate. 15-year amortization. And this one, we're making the assumption that it has a 4% prepayment penalty, and that it's prepaid at the end of year 3. Okay, so first thing we need to do is go ahead and calculate what is going to be payment. So 84,385.68. And we need to find the balance at the end of 3 years. Okay. So the balance of that loan at the end of 3 years is going to be $8,647,401.17. We're going to tack on a prepayment penalty of 4%. So it's going to be $8,993,297.22, and we can simply enter that number as our new future value for 36 months, and then we should be able to then solve for the effective cost of borrowing. And you get 7.11% rounded. Okay? Questions on that one?
You could have did that another way.
You could have.
Yeah,
Like with the cash flows.
Yeah, you could have done it with cash flows, but this is probably the more direct way. Okay? Questions? Okay. Moving forward. Okay, question 14. Okay, also calculating the lender's yield. In this case, we are dealing with an administrative fee that gets charged each month, and see what the effect is on the loan for that. So $500,000 loan. Interest rate of 3% for 30 years. We get the monthly payment. $2108.02. And here we've got a $100 administrative fee, so what you can do is just simply tack on $100 to that. So you end up with $2208.02. Put that in as a negative payment amount, and then you should just be able to resolve for what is the interest rate or the lender's yield. And then you should get 3.37%. Okay? All right. Move forward. Number 15. Okay, this one, we've got origination fees, we've got the administrative fee, and we've got the prepayment penalty, all three combined into one problem. So this one's going to be just a wee bit more involved. So we start off with $1 million. In this case, 10 years, 5%. We get the monthly payment. $10,606.55. We need to find the balance at the end of the first 24 months. Okay. We get 837, 805, 57. We need to multiply that by our prepayment penalty of 3%. It's going to give us 862, 939, 74. Okay, everybody good at that point? All right. Now what we also need to do is we need to figure out what is the original amount of the loan dispersal. So we've got to subtract out the loan origination fees of $20,000. So that means that the actual amount being dispersed by the lender is going to be $980,000. And then we've also got to add in the $150 monthly amortization, or the monthly administrative fee, which is going to make our monthly payment go to $10,756.55. Okay, so those are the baseline calculations that we need to do. Now we can put this in to solve for our effective cost of borrowing. So we start off with the $980,000 as our loan amount over 24 months with our new payment of $10,756.55. And then our loan payoff of $862, $939.74 as our future value, and then solve for our effective cost of borrowing, and we should get 7.2 or 7.62%. Okay? Everybody good with that? Okay. All right. All right, almost there. Just a couple questions left. Okay, 16. Assume that you've got a commercial tenant that is paying $15,000 a month as a payment for the next 5 years or 60 months. What is the present value of the lease, assuming a 7% discount? All right, solve for present value. And you should have gotten $757,529.90. Okay? Questions on that one? All right. Question 17. Assume that you're going to need to spend $300,000 on a new roof in 10 years. How much do you need to set aside for the next 10 years to accumulate that amount, assuming that you earn 3% annually compounded monthly on the funds deposited in this account? Okay, so here we would just simply start off with the $300,000 as our future value that needs to be accumulated. 10 years, 120 months, 3%, and then we need to solve for the payment that we need to be set aside each month. Okay, 2146, 82. Okay. All right. Question 18. Here you purchase a building today for 1.75 million and intend to own the building for the next 5 years. Assume that it appreciates in value by 3.5% per year. What is the expected future value of the building at the end of 5 years? This one, you could have worked it one of two ways. You could have assumed either annual compounding or monthly compounding. Both answers would have been considered correct since I didn't specify. But in either case, you're simply going to put in 1.75 million as the present value for 5 years at 3.5%, and then solve for future value. And if you'd done it on a monthly basis, it would have been 2,084,149.95. If you had done it on an annual basis, it would have been 2,078,451.03. Okay? Questions on that one?
But since it says that I'm trying to find it says it increases in value by 3.5% each year.
But one could interpret that as being either on because a lot of times we'll use that and we'll sort of say 3.5% per year, but we're not necessarily saying whether it's compounded annually or compounded monthly. Okay. And so you could have assumed either way, that's why I counted it both ways. Now, if I had said specifically it needed to be compounded monthly or needed to be compounded annually, then you would need to obviously do one or the other. But a lot of times when it comes to annual increases in the property value, a lot of times we will do that on an annual compounding basis, but yet at the same time, you know, one could make the argument that you should do it on a monthly basis or monthly compounding.
All right.
Okay, question 19. All right, here we're just being asked to calculate net operating income, so we're going to put down the key pieces of information that you're given. Potential gross income minus vacancy and collection losses plus other income equals effective gross income minus total operating expenses equals net operating income. So in this case, we start off with potential gross income of 500,000. We have vacancy and collection losses of 75,000. We have 25,000 of other income. Okay, so 500 minus 75 would be 425, plus the 25 would kick us back up to 450,000 of effective gross income, and we're told that our total operating expenses are expected to be 25% of effective gross income. So if we multiply that out, $112,500 of total operating expenses, or $337,500 as our NOI, and then from there we are asked to capitalize the value of the NOI using a 7% cap rate. So you should just be able to take that, divide it by 0.07, and get 4,821,428.57. Okay? Everybody good with that? All right, and then the last one. Question 20. All right. Here we're asked to calculate the maximum mortgage amount that you can achieve with the conditions that you are provided. So in this case, we'll sort of start off with, if we know that our debt service coverage ratio is equal to net operating income divided by annual debt service, and we are given the debt service coverage ratio of 1.35, and the net operating income from the property is $1,500,000, then we can back solve to get the annual debt service. Which should be $1,111,111.11. And then from this, we need to make it on a monthly basis, so divide that by 12. And we get $92,592.59. So we're going to plop that in. As the payment amount. In this case, we're told a 5% interest rate and a 15-year term, and solve for the present value or the loan amount. And we should get 11,708,818.77. Okay, so I think that pretty much gets us through the whole midterm. So now that we've gone over each of the questions, what's your general sense of, for those of you that maybe didn't get everything quite right, what were some of the stumbling blocks? Anything?
I was literally thinking to like divide or add something like at the very end. Like when I was look at the calculator, I would put a zero, like minus a zero, an extra zero, or minus zero.
Okay. Anybody else?
I actually got this one incorrectly, mainly because I didn't divide the ADS by 12.
Gotcha. So
And
basically what it sounds like, I
everything
mean,
else is kind of-
for the most part, you got what was going on, but you made some just minor little mistakes, nothing major, but just a few minor things that kind of threw you off, those of you that didn't get it quite right, okay? Any other thoughts?
We used the wrong Excel model.
You used the wrong Excel model, that will do it, okay. All right,
They told us they use this model.
okay. Anybody else? Other thoughts? Yep,
Instead of putting future value, we put present value. Like it's the wrong box.
okay. Okay, all right, yep, Dustin.
One thing that helped me is just like to read it and then logically see if the answer made sense.
Right.
Because I think if you just get away from just putting in whatever you see in your calculator, and you don't reread the question and look and be like, how can the payment be $92,000 on a $1 million loan?
Yeah, one thing I was doing as I was reading the question, I would underline the key pieces of information that you needed.
Absolutely.
And then maybe as I put them in the calculator, I checked them off. All right, I got this one. I got this one. And then typically it worked out right.
Okay. Now, those of you that did really well in the test, which are obviously several of you that did, what did you do in terms of studying?
Well, I actually went through the videos that you went through, and I let you kind of do the first maybe 6 or so, and then from that point, I just stopped the video. I would do the problem and then play the video to see where I was at with you or where I could probably short. And after some time, I was just kind of knocking them out my own.
Okay. Anybody else? Yep.
Did the homework, tried to do it all myself first, and when I got stuck, I looked at the video, then did the midterm, compared answers with fellow classmates.
Yeah, the key was, for me, the key was working with, fellow classmates to kind of go over the last exam, because I felt that going over the videos and the, those appendixes that you gave us didn't really get into detail about what was actually on the exam, and it was good to have feedback and understand, we did our own problems and then we went over them, and the key for me was understanding, if I read annual debt service and they want monthly, like in your head you're going annual, all right, divide by 12. I mean, it's not necessarily just typing it in, but understanding the ideas around it. So it's more of just a collaborative effort after putting your own work in.
Okay. All right. Any pieces of advice that you would give other folks that didn't do so well?
Study a lot more.
Watch those videos.
Don't sleep before the exam.
Like
Adderall.
like some of the guys said, it's the concepts that if you take a step back from just punching stuff in your calculator the right way
and understand why you're punching in what you're punching in.
It makes it so much easier to understand, like, oh, I'm looking for a future value, all right, so let me do
This is
absolutely.
the same formula, just like 25 different ways.
That's all it is, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, obviously whenever, you know, we go through in class and we sort of explain all of that, you know, and try to, you know, help to explain the logic behind it, you know, but like, you know, I feel sorry for you coming in. This is the first thing that you have to witness as a prospective student is, you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because all we're doing is punching numbers and sort of, you know, no explanation, but, you know, the idea is just going over a test. But, you know, prior to this, you know, explaining the process, explaining the logic behind how this sort of stuff fits together and kind of getting that in your mind and realizing, and as we, you know, I said and I've hopefully, you know, made clear to you know, many of you, it's not the sort of material that you can just memorize a bunch of stuff. And all of you that, you know, did really well, you know, you would agree with that. You know, it's not a memorization kind of thing. It's a logic kind of process of once you understand the logic, it all makes sense. But if you try to just sit there and you're just trying to memorize specific keystrokes for specific problems, it's not going to work so well. So, you know, that is the key to this sort of material is really trying to, you know, delve in there and obviously, you know, understand the logic and kind of get through it. And then obviously the videos were there to try to, you know, give you that opportunity to kind of look at it over and over and over again to the extent that that's useful.
Another reason I like the videos is coming into the test, I was worried that the test would be like the videos, right? But coming into it, the questions on the test were honestly a lot more simpler than the videos themselves.
If you do a lot of, the practice exams and things like that, if you do problems that are extremely intricate and they'll have a lot more work, that's what I was genuinely worried about is like, you know, a couple of other problems that we went over that took a while. And, you know, once you get an idea of that, you know, these problems, you know, aren't as intricate. It just seems like you could recognize the keywords. I mean, for me, it was understanding when you, loan origination fees and you know, prepayment penalties, when you're incorporating that within your, you know, within your model. I mean, it's the little things like that you memorize, but you still have an understanding of what they are.
Yep. Okay. All right, good. Good. All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and just finish up what we have to before lunch, okay? Hey.
Nice to meet you. Antoine, how are you?
Fred, nice to meet you. Yeah, Matthew Rostein. Yeah, he's our the associate director for the program. He's probably the one we can talk to.
Yeah, I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah, it's nice that you come in today.
Yeah,
unfortunately, you came in time when we were reviewing the
No
midterm.
problem, it's okay, but it's all calculation.
But yeah, this is
I understand because I have done lots before.
Okay.
So I'm kind of familiar with that.
Okay.
But not a calculator.
That was probably we couldn't have come in at probably a worse time in the sense of
What's the name of this class?
this is a real estate finance course. Yeah.
And how many courses are you from?
A total of 15 courses. Yeah, and over the course of basically 1 year.
1 year.
Right. All on Saturdays.
Every Saturday?
Yeah. Well, it's like 40 out of 52 Saturdays.
Each term is one class?
No, each term is typically 3 or 4 classes. So like in the fall, well actually, starting in the fall semester, which will run like late August through December, it'll be a total of 5 courses, but not all of them are 3 credit hours. Some of them are 3 credits, some are like 1 or 2 credits.
Those classes are Saturdays or weekdays?
No, there's no weekdays. There's only a little bit of, there's a couple of the classes that part of them are online, some of the software courses. Part of specifically the Argus DCF and the Argus Developer and eProfiler and Microsoft Project Pro in the future, those are all partially online. So these are software-based courses, so it's sort of things you get familiar with the software. Whereas the other courses like the real estate finance course, investment course, and so forth, all those are all face-to-face.
It's here in this
Right.
I thought it was in Nova.
Well, no, this program is only offered in downtown, on Saturdays.
I'm trying to start in August.
Oh, okay.
Right, I'm an international student, so I graduated in May from Nova.
Okay.
I have one open year. Like,
Yeah,
everything for
yep,
work
practical
and
training,
everything.
yep. Well, we can probably help you out with that as well in terms of, we've got a couple of folks that are looking for internships right now in terms of wanting to hire somebody. So, yeah, we'll definitely, let's talk about that maybe this next week.
Okay, yes. And I have another question. So I already made my application online. I talked with Matthew as my resume. I'll be able to start in August?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, as long as he's, he'll be taking care of processing everything, but, you know, just keep in touch with him about that aspect of it. But, give me a call or email this next week and let's set up a time and I'll forward you some information about some of the different companies that are looking for
Yeah, I'll be
interns.
interested in all my OPTs until June.
Oh, just until June?
Just until June because I'm from last year. But I'm willing to make like a CPT, like when I study, I can do CPT for work.
Okay,
And I could be
okay.
an internship also. I want to learn the weekdays and the weekends start.
Right. Yeah,
That's
well,
like
yeah, the one that might work really well, one of our students that just graduated was working with it's the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. She was a Geographic Information Systems intern. I mean, she figured everything out sort of on her. It's not that difficult, but it's a lot of information, maintaining a database of commercial properties.
Yeah, I do commercial.
Yeah,
My
and
family is commercial.
so that might be, you know, something that